Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and welcome back to another true crime video, or if you're new here, welcome. Today we are discussing the case of 2-year-old Ethan Ives Griffiths, a story of abuse, neglect, and inaction by those who Ethan trusted most. He was tortured, humiliated, and treated so far worse than any human deserves to be treated, all until he met his painful, tragic end. But before we get into this wild ride of a case, I want to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is the brand that brought you great tasting, high protein cereal that took you straight back to your childhood. But now they offer even more. That's right, they've come out with some delicious crispy treats and new granola. Magic Spoon is the perfect addition to a variety of diets. Their new treats each are packed with 11 to 12 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 1 to 2 net carbs, so you can always get the fuel you need on the go. Their new granola is packed with 13 grams of protein and 0 sugar, coming in delicious flavors like honey almond, peanut butter, and my favorite, dark chocolate almond. Magic Spoon's treats are great for when I'm on the go and I need a quick snack that aligns with my goals. I have a very active job, I work out regularly, and I want to be as strong as I can, so protein is a huge part of my diet. But I'm also super busy, so it can be hard to find time to fit that protein in. But with Magic Spoon, I can just grab a bar or a serving of granola, and now I'm in for a high-protein, tasty snack. I also love to add their granola to my daily yogurt. It just adds a little bit of flavor and crunch to make the most delicious afternoon snack. I actually do a vanilla yogurt and add some blueberries and then some of their honey almond granola on top, and it's perfect. So, if you want to give Magic Spoon a tryout for yourself, use my code RachelShannon or click the link in the description box below to try Magic Spoon's treats or granola today, and you can get $5 off. You can also find Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. Plus, Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee online. So, if you don't like it for whatever reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. So again, click the link below to head to magicspoon.com/RachelShannon or use the QR code on screen for $5 off. Thank you again so much to Magic Spoon for partnering with me on today's video. Ethan Ives Griffiths was born to Shannon Ives and Will Griffiths in North Wales on April 27, 2019. From the moment Ethan was born, he had a tumultuous life. He lived with his mother and father in Mold, North Wales for the first 2 years of his life until his father Will was arrested for controlling and coercive behavior. After his arrest, Shannon and Ethan moved out of the home where they lived with Will and in with Shannon's sister in Garden City. From there, Ethan was moved around a bit. 2 weeks after moving with his mother to Garden City, Ethan moved in with his grandparents, aka Shannon's parents, Michael and Carrie Ives, while Shannon stayed living with her sister. He stayed with Michael and Carrie for a brief period before returning to Shannon's sister's home. But then about a month after this move, both Shannon and Ethan moved back in with her parents on Kingsley Road in Garden City, finally settling in and having a more stable place to live. By July 22, 2021, a few days after moving in with Michael and Carrie, Ethan's social worker, Michael Cornish, visited the home. He saw Ethan, who he described as appearing small and shy. He then spoke with Shannon, telling her that Ethan is on the Child Protection Register, so he's required to see Ethan every 10 days. Shannon seemed to understand this and appeared cooperative with the requirement, agreeing to a follow-up visit for August 5th. However, by that day, when the social worker Michael showed up to the home, he was told that the family were isolating due to COVID, so he couldn't come inside. She explained that both of her parents were very careful when it came to COVID because they were older and more vulnerable, so they couldn't take any chances. Instead, Shannon spoke with Michael on the front porch of the home. She then said that Ethan was inside napping with his siblings and she didn't want to wake them, so he wasn't going to be coming outside. According to Michael, they are trained to be very careful when it comes to entering properties, especially during COVID protocols. Families still have their rights in their own homes, and if they say the worker can't come in, it's a sticky situation to try to navigate. For a social worker, they're left with a few options. If they believe the child to be in immediate danger, they can call the police and gain assistance with entering the home. Otherwise, they can offer a video call or look through the windows to try and see the family that way. Other than that, though, they don't have a right to enter the home if they're told no. So at that time, Michael accepted that Ethan may have just been napping, so he let it go for the day. By that point, he didn't have any reason to think that Ethan was in any immediate danger. After all, it seemed that social workers were mostly involved with Ethan because of his father, Will. I want to note that the previous social worker on Ethan's case said that the family was known for canceling appointments and making excuses. When showing up unannounced, she was often met with aggression from Will. And again, the reason they moved out of the family home was because Will was arrested. By this point, Will was gone, and Ethan appeared to be in a better situation with his loving grandparents. So again, Michael felt that Ethan was probably okay. He ended up speaking with Shannon for about 45 minutes, at which time he set up his next visit for August 12th. After that, Michael left the home. By August 12th, once again, Michael showed up to the home, but nobody answered the door this time. He tried calling Shannon multiple times, but there was no answer. He continued reaching out to her the following day as well and still couldn't reach her. At that time, Michael told his manager that Shannon was no longer cooperating and that someone needed to see that child. But before any further action could be taken, things had already escalated to the point of no return. By around 9 p.m. on the evening of August 14th, 2021, 999 received a call from Carrie Ives to report that her 2-year-old grandson, Ethan, has collapsed and went unresponsive. She said in the call that Ethan was watching TV when he suddenly went limp and started gasping for air. She said that his grandfather picked him up and tried getting a response from him, but he wouldn't wake up. Then Michael Ives chimed in and said that the same thing happened yesterday. He was playing and then suddenly collapsed. He seemed to get better quickly yesterday, so they didn't seek medical care then, but now that it happened again and now he wasn't waking up, they knew that they needed immediate medical attention. Basically, they said that Ethan suddenly collapsed and they had no idea why. Nothing happened to cause it. He didn't hit his head or fall or anything like that. He just fainted.
Yeah.
Is the patient awake?
I don't know, it's my grandson. He's just...
Can you check for me if he's awake, please? You're conscious?
I can't understand. He's just been watching the TV and now he's gone all in upon me and his mum and his granddad and he won't wake up.
Okay, are you getting any response from him?
Nothing.
Okay, is he breathing?
It's like that. He's gasping for air. He done it yesterday, but he come round. But yeah, coming round now.
Right. Okay. Tell me exactly what's happened.
He's been watching the telly and he fell to the floor and his granddad picked him up and tried to bring him around and he won't come around and his body's gone all in. Come on, darling.
You mentioned that this has happened yesterday as well.
Yeah, he was standing up yesterday playing and then he just collapsed.
Alright, okay.
He fell to the floor and then he was like this for about 3 minutes and then he come round, but...
Okay.
Longer. Tonight he's just... Come on,
baby. Standing there watching the TV and then it just collapsed.
Okay. Did he get checked over last night?
No.
Okay. Alright, okay.
When paramedics arrived to the home on Kingsley Road, they found then 2-year-old Ethan lying unconscious in the living room. At the time, he appeared small and thin for his age, with one medic describing that he looked like a 90-year-old man. That's how skinny and frail he appeared. Ethan was quickly placed onto an ambulance and taken to the Countess of Chester Hospital to be stabilized before being transferred to Alder Hey, a specialist children's hospital in Liverpool where he could receive more intensive treatment. It was there when it was discovered that little Ethan doesn't have some random condition that could have caused him to faint. He doesn't have an underlying health issue that caused, fainting or sudden illness. At the time of his admittance, he was found to be covered in over 40 visible bruises and marks and had suffered from a catastrophic brain injury. His entire brain was swollen, causing severe restriction of blood flow, which deprived half of his brain from oxygen for a prolonged period of time. According to the pediatric neurosurgeon, the damage to Ethan's brain was most likely caused by physical contact, such as being hit in the head very hard, or he was shaken vigorously. He was also severely underweight and dangerously dehydrated. So dehydrated, in fact, that doctors said that if nothing else had happened to him, he still would have died days later if he continued to be denied water. For the 2 days that followed his collapse, doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to save the little boy's life. They knew that the cards were stacked against Ethan and that he had very little chance of survival. But still, they tried to remain hopeful. By August 16th, though, all hope was lost. Ethan's injuries were too severe, and there was nothing more that could be done to save him. By 6 p.m. that evening, 2-year-old little Ethan Ives Griffiths was pronounced dead at the Alder Hey Children's Hospital. As all of that was happening, of course, the adults within that home were all immediately questioned. At first, both Michael and Carrie claimed that Ethan just randomly fainted and wouldn't regain consciousness. Michael explained that when they first found Ethan unresponsive, he picked him up and brought him outside to get some cool air, but that wasn't helping. So they brought him back in and called an ambulance. Carrie also explained that as they waited for the ambulance to arrive, they tried helping Ethan however they could while on the phone with the dispatcher. Carrie also mentioned that she didn't see any of the bruises that were on him at that time. She really just thought that he randomly collapsed.
I could see Ethan's legs doing, so I just grabbed his arms and then I pulled him back to me and then his legs had just dropped. And I've said, "Come on lad, stand up, come on." Nothing. So I've laid him down on the carpet there, shouted for his mom, and he just wasn't having any of it. I picked him up, took him outside to try and get him a bit of cold, fresh air. He wasn't having any of it. I put water on his lips and all stuff like that, rubbed his chest, his legs and stuff. Nothing. He was just staring.
So his eyes open then?
His eyes was open, yeah.
Right, okay.
So I thought he was awake, but he was just glaring like he could see through you.
So I automatically found an ambulance, and then when I was on the phone to the operator, I had to put it on loudspeaker to tell us what to do. But Michael had to go and run and get a defibrillator from around the chemist. But she was telling me and Shannon what to do, so we was doing it, lifting his head back and then puffing in his mouth, but he just was responsive. And then the paramedics come in, and then they just picked him up and took him into the ambulance.
But of course, as more information was coming out regarding Ethan's condition, investigators knew that there was much, much more to this story. They now knew that Ethan was either hit or shaken. This was not an accident. Someone in that home was responsible for Ethan's condition, and investigators set out to find out exactly who. Investigators went ahead and questioned each member of the family again, and this time, each of them had a different story to tell. Both Michael and Carrie told officers that Ethan died because of abuse he suffered at the hands of his mother, Shannon. They explained that she had a quick temper and was known to hit and smack Ethan as punishment. She often told Ethan that she hated him and wished that he could go off and live somewhere else. They said that they tried getting Shannon to stop smacking Ethan, but she just could not have the patience to deal with the 2-year-old. Carrie then explained that the reason Ethan had bruises all over other parts of his body was because he was just always walking into things, falling over, and stumbling around. He was a clumsy, accident-prone kid. Michael then said that on the day before Ethan died, he was throwing a fit on the floor because he wanted more juice. In response, Shannon grabbed his arm aggressively and told him to stand up before smacking him on the back of the head. After that, Shannon left the room, and while Michael wasn't looking, he heard a loud bang. He looked over and saw that Ethan had fallen and figured that the bang sound was from him hitting his head on the floor. He was unresponsive for about 5 minutes, but after Michael tried getting him to wake up, he finally regained consciousness and seemed to perk back up. Michael figured that he was perfectly fine after that. After this incident, Michael said that he and Carrie took Ethan shopping, making sure to keep him with them for the rest of the day so they could keep an eye on him. They said they eventually asked Shannon if she wanted them to take Ethan to get checked out by a doctor, but Shannon said no. During this time, Michael and Carrie said that they tried making sure they didn't leave Shannon alone with Ethan so that, she couldn't abuse him again, but it was impossible to be with him 24/7, so they couldn't fully prevent another incident from happening. Then, on the day of his death, Michael said that Shannon took Ethan off to get him dinner, but when they returned, Ethan had a red mark near his eye. When Michael asked Shannon how he got the mark, she said that he must have fallen. Michael knew, though, that Shannon was lying. He knew that she probably hit him, but didn't know what caused his significant head injury. All he knows was that at around 9 p.m., Ethan collapsed while Shannon was upstairs on her phone. Carrie then explained that when Ethan went unconscious, she called upstairs for Shannon to come down, but she said it would be a few minutes because she was on her phone. Carrie said she clearly didn't care much about the well-being of her baby because she was willing to just sit there and wait and finish up whatever she was doing on her phone instead of coming and taking care of her child. On the other hand, Shannon told police that her father, Michael, was actually responsible for Ethan's death. She doesn't know exactly how it happened, but she said that Michael was mean and she was scared of him and she hated him. At this point, blame was being pointed in every direction. No one was taking accountability for what happened, with Michael and Carrie both agreeing that it was their daughter, while Shannon was adamant that it was her father. Regardless of who was responsible, somehow no one in that home knew how he got the head injury that ended his life. But as officers continued searching for answers, they found just what they needed to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Investigators ended up finding 2 CCTV cameras located on the front and back of the home. After watching over 1,000 hours of continuous footage from these cameras, police had a very clear picture of just how horrendously Ethan was being treated in that home and who exactly the main aggressor was. Footage from August 4th, about a week and a half before his death, showed Ethan on the trampoline in the backyard. Michael is then seen grabbing his arm aggressively and carrying Ethan by his arm until they're both off camera. He's basically going in and grabbing Ethan like a rag doll. Both Carrie and Shannon are present in that footage, yet they do nothing to stop Michael. That same day, there's footage that shows Ethan walking in the backyard, and judging by the way he was walking, it's believed that he had already sustained a head injury at some point. So, about 10 days prior to his death, Ethan was likely beaten or hit in his head. After seeing how wobbly and unsteady Ethan's walking is, footage from another day then shows Michael walking up to the front of the house in a way that's mocking how Ethan walks. Carrie and Shannon follow behind him and appear to laugh at this hilarious joke. Then, footage from in front of the home showed numerous incidents in which Michael is seen placing Ethan in the car or taking him out of the car by grabbing his arm and yanking him and throwing him around. I want to note that between August 4th and August 12th, there's no footage of Ethan, but we do know that on August 5th, the social workers showed up to try and see Ethan, but Shannon wouldn't allow it. Based on that, it can be reasonably assumed that Ethan was probably in poor condition, and obviously the family couldn't allow someone else to see him. Again, we know that prior to August 5th, he most likely already sustained some sort of head injury, so he probably already had bruises on him. By August 12th, Ethan is again seen on the CCTV footage being carried by his arm and placed into the car by Michael, who then appears to punch Ethan 2 times once he's in the car seat. After that August 12th footage, no further video of Ethan can be found. At this point, it's crystal clear that Ethan was being abused and that Michael was the main aggressor. All the while, Carrie and Shannon saw his mistreatment, yet did nothing to stop it from happening. In fact, they thought that it was funny. Investigators went on to say that they could confirm that Shannon was in fact on her phone at the time of Ethan's collapse, while both Michael and Carrie were in the room with Ethan. The extent of his injuries were so severe that he was likely beaten just before his death, so it is believed that Michael and Carrie could be the only 2 individuals responsible. According to what we know up to this point, something happened to Ethan that caused his collapse around 9 p.m., but police weren't called until 9:20 p.m. Now, I want to note that Carrie said that this delay was because she just freaked out. She called Shannon's sister on FaceTime to ask her what to do, and then she just went around and panicked for a little bit, and then she decided to call the police. But investigators believe that either Michael or Carrie did something to obviously cause Ethan's collapse, but that they spent the following 20 minutes coming up with a story together before calling for help. They worked together to try to pin the blame on Shannon, their own daughter. But again, we see from the footage that Michael is the main aggressor, and we know that only he and Carrie were in the room when Ethan sustained his fatal head injury. While we still don't know for certain what they did to cause the injury, whether he was severely beaten or shaken vigorously, we do know that one of them caused it and the other helped cover it up. Based on this information, then 47-year-old Michael and 46-year-old Carrie were both charged with murder, while 28-year-old Shannon was charged with causing or allowing the death of a child. The 3 then went on trial for their charges in June of 2025. Over the course of the 6-week-long trial, the prosecution once again outlined the horrendous abuse this poor 2-year-old little boy suffered at the hands of his grandfather, grandmother, and mother. They spoke about how he was removed from the home where he lived with his father, who was also said to be abusive. Once he was with his grandparents, he should have been free from that abuse that he had been suffering from for so long. But instead, it just got worse, so far beyond what any normal person could comprehend. They talked about that CCTV footage which showed that Michael Ives was the main aggressor. While living with the Iveses, Ethan was often punished by being carried by his arm like we saw in the video. He was forced to stay perfectly still in various positions, such as standing with his arms on his head for prolonged periods. His siblings were encouraged to hit and kick him and make fun of him, which they did. All the while, his siblings were treated normally. All of the adults in the home also humiliated Ethan. He was starved of food and water, beaten and tortured throughout his short time with his grandparents. The prosecution argued that while Michael was the main aggressor for the abuse, both Carrie and Shannon sat by and not only allowed it to happen, but they laughed and played along. They discussed how on the day of the murder, Michael and Carrie were the only ones in that room with Ethan when he collapsed. This means that they have to be responsible for what happened to him, given the extent of his injuries. Again, he suffered severe and catastrophic head injuries that likely would have caused his collapse shortly before his death. That, compounded with the head injury he sustained the prior day, plus the malnourishment and dehydration, he didn't stand a chance. After Ethan's tragic and brutal death, the prosecution said that Michael and Carrie came up with a plan to pin the whole thing on their own daughter before alerting her to the situation and calling 999. Based on all of this, the prosecution said that both Carrie and Michael are responsible for Ethan's death. Even if Michael laid his hands on Ethan and caused him to die, Carrie still did nothing about it. She took part in delaying medical care and lied about what happened. Meanwhile, even though Shannon wasn't in the room when this particular event happened, she still knew about and allowed the prolonged abuse and torture of her son, thus also playing a part in his death. On the other hand, Michael and Carrie both maintained that Shannon was the main aggressor and that she was the one ultimately responsible for his death. Now, at this point, Michael was aware of the video which showed how rough he was with his grandson. He admitted that he was cruel and neglectful, and that he was ashamed of how he carried Ethan in those videos. He said that he knew he should have and could have done more to protect him, but he just didn't for whatever reason. He ended up telling the same story he told police earlier, that Shannon had a short fuse, would often hit and beat her son. On the day prior to his death and the day of his death, both head injuries were caused by his mother. They said that it was only when Shannon left the room at night when Michael saw what happened to Ethan and notified Carrie. There was no plan to cover it up and pin it on Shannon because she was the one who was responsible. But of course, again, the video evidence does not lie. The only person seen roughing up Ethan, hitting him, dragging him by his arm was Michael. There technically is not any evidence of Shannon hitting her son, so if she were truly responsible, she'd have to be convicted solely based on the testimony from a very, very unreliable source. And honestly, if that CCTV footage wasn't there, she may have been charged with murder along with the other two. But because the CCTV footage shows only Michael hitting and abusing Ethan, he took the fall for it. In their closing statements, the prosecution said, quote, "What must have been a forceful attack on Ethan that night, August 14th, must have been the culmination of physical and emotional neglect and abuse upon him by those who should have cared for him the most." After hearing the evidence and testimony from both sides, the jury was sent for deliberation. By Tuesday, July 15th of this year, the jury came back and decided that all three defendants are guilty of their charges. 46-year-old Michael and 47-year-old Carrie were both convicted of Ethan's murder, while 28-year-old Shannon was found guilty of causing or allowing his death. All three of them were also found guilty of cruelty to a child. Following the verdict, the main detective on the case said, quote, "Michael, Carrie, and Shannon all held positions of responsibility and should have shown Ethan love, care, and protection. Instead, Michael caused distress, pain, and misery to his grandson before brutally taking his life nearly 4 years ago in August of 2021. Carrie and Shannon both watched and took no action as the abuse unfolded in the home they all shared. Their behavior was beyond comprehension, and it's impossible to imagine the terror a 2-year-old would feel in suffering the horrific injuries he endured inflicted upon him by those regarded as his closest family. As of right now, the trio has not yet been sentenced. Their hearing is scheduled for October of this year, so we will have to wait a bit before finding out what the punishment will be. But I am hopeful, based on how disturbed the judge was in this case, that they will get the maximum punishment allowed, because they deserve nothing less. In fact, they deserve a lot worse, but it's the UK we're talking about, so the most we can do is hope for a lengthy sentence. But as of right now, that is where this tragic case ends. I want to say that I've seen a lot of the comments you guys have been leaving on how many child cases I've been covering, and I do want to apologize if it's been too much for you to handle, but it seems that I just keep coming across these horrific cases, and anytime I start reading them, I feel so compelled to discuss it, because the more we discuss these types of cases, the more we call out these monstrous individuals for what they do, Maybe someone will think twice before allowing their child to be hurt, or maybe others will start to notice red flags if they notice something off with the family or how they treat their children. Maybe someone will feel empowered to report abuse they think they may have witnessed or think may be going on behind closed doors. Because a lot of times people are afraid to report because they don't want to be wrong or they don't want to get a good family in trouble over nothing. But I promise you 2 things. If you have a gut feeling that something is wrong, your gut is usually right. It might not be abuse, it might be something else, but something might be going wrong, and it's best that you follow your gut. But even if it's not, even if you misread the situation, if Child Protective Services is called and the family is totally innocent, then most likely, I will say there are outliers, but most likely 9.5 out of 10 times, nothing will happen. So if you take anything from this video, please, if you see something, say something. I know this may not have helped little Ethan, and for once, I don't entirely blame his social worker. As a side note, I know that the social worker made a bad judgment call, but he did alert a superior when he didn't see Ethan for 2 visits. He was following up as he was supposed to, and once he felt that something was wrong, he did escalate the situation. It's just so unfortunate that this happened so fast that nothing could be done. But either way, even if it didn't help in Ethan's case, your call could save a child's life. Follow your gut, and a child may be saved. But that is where I'm going to end today's video, and now I want to hear what you all think. Do you think Michael was truly the main aggressor? Do you think he's responsible, or do you believe the story that it was actually Shannon? Do you think Shannon and Carrie participated more in the abuse than they let on, and it just wasn't captured on CCTV? What do you think of the charges each individual faces? And do you think they were fair? And do you think they'll get fair sentences? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Spotify. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which is also listed down below. With that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.